We are now live on Facebook. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, whatever time of day it is, whatever time zone you're watching on. This evening I'm with Jack, who's a Tedx Kashmir speaker. Jack, I could try and introduce you to the audience, but instead of me doing that, why don't you, as if someone bumped into you in a bar in the days when you're allowed to go into bars if you drink, or in a cafe, and said, "Hi, Jack, what do you do?"
I can't believe you mentioned the bar, Richard. We've been in lockdown. I'm desperate to get into the bar.
I'm sorry.
No, my name's Jack Woodhams, and I'm co-founder of two organisations, community startup groups here in York. One called Yorkie Dads, and one called Menfulness. So that's me.
Okay, and that's a voluntary thing you do in your spare time. We're going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. By the way, for anyone watching this Facebook Live, the main objective of this evening is to spread the word about our event, which is coming up on the 26th of November. That's in exactly 2 weeks. And below the Facebook Live, if you're watching this on our Tedx Kashmir's page, which should be viewable now, I'm just about to post a link to the event where you should be able to sign up for it. So if you're watching this and you're wondering what's going on is we're having a chat with Jack, who, yes, it's working. Great. I already see we've got one heart. Someone likes what we're talking about, Jack, which is nice to know.
Give us some heart. Give us some hearts.
Yeah. 7 people are watching. We've got 1 heart. If you can give us more hearts, we'd love that. But anyway, but apart from the Yorkie Dads project, which is and the Menfulness, what's your day job? What do you do because you're doing that as a volunteer? What's your day job?
Yeah, so I've got 2 day jobs. One, I work part-time for the City of York Council. And the second job is I'm a shared lives carer. So that is basically, it's like fostering, but for adults with learning difficulties. And they live with us full time. So we've got Scott and Robin that live with us full time, as well as my own 2 terrors running around. So it's quite a busy household. So I've locked them all outside. Said you can't come in here. So very good carer I am.
So you've got two children of your own, and
yes.
People you're caring for, a busy household, and they're all locked out. So so anyway, for people who are just watching, this is Jack. He's one of our speakers at the event coming up on the 26th. If you're watching this on Facebook, please share it. Jack, why don't you say what Yorkie Dads, because Yorkie Dads came before Menfulness. What was the idea behind Yorkie Dads?
Yes, so Yorkie Dads. I suppose I need to. Yorkie Dads. It isn't just me. I'm one of the co-founders. And as we're a democracy within Yorkie Dads and Menfulness, we had to put a poll out to everyone to ask them who they would like to come and speak here. And being the better looking committee member, everybody decided that I should do it. So here I am. There's 3 of us. There's 4 of us. There's myself. There's Matty. There's Dan and there's Mike. But initially, Yorkie Dads was set up about 8 years ago. And I suppose when I had all the pre-nerves and the excitement about becoming a father, I was really looking forward to it. And then when my daughter was born and with complications with the birth, it wasn't as exciting. And I was worried, I was concerned. I didn't feel like I had many people to talk to. I often went across to some of the parent and baby groups, and I was the only dad there. And I thought they were lovely. I did feel like eyes were on me, and I felt like, well, maybe they're looking at me if I'm getting it right. So I thought I can't be the only one that's feeling this way. And it turns out that I'm not. So a few old faces who I knew from years back, Dan and Mike, have got in touch with them, and because in fact our wives got us all together, and I said I just fancy going somewhere where I could really just be one of the boys, offload, have a safe space to open up and be able to talk about the things that I'm struggling with, and it certainly parenting, it isn't easy, but having other people who've been through there and you can just be really honest. So yeah, that's how Yorkie Dad started about 8 years ago, and it quite simply we said, well, let's meet up. So we met up regular every other week, and we decided to meet up at a pub, which was convenient, but it was a 10 a.m. and it had a really good play area and a really good cooked breakfast, and that's a lot of the emphasis and the passion behind cooked breakfast to get us all together.
Okay, so just to repeat back what I've understood, so you were a recent dad. You were quite stressed about the problems of being a dad, and you found that if you went to like the parent and baby groups, you were the only guy, you were the only adult man, and you were thinking it might be easier to open up and talk about your problems if you're with other men. But you're not an anti-women group or a lad culture group at all, are you?
No, not at all. And if it wasn't for our wives and our partners, we wouldn't be half as successful as we are. The old saying that behind every successful man, there's a partner behind it, and that's really is the case. In fact, you know, there's so many other support groups within York. We just felt like that we just needed something for men.
Okay, so you're getting together, and then maybe can you give examples of, because I know obviously in the Tedx Kashmir talk you're going to more detail, but maybe there was one thing that you got together that got you a lot of national and international attention. Maybe you can talk about that and what problem that was solving. Obviously I'm thinking about the hair project.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just, I'll talk about the hair project, but we started to run lots of different events. Dads were just coming up to us and said, can we do a breakfast club? Can we do a Lego club? Can we do a walk and talk group? And then, we created a hair school as well, which got us internationally recognized. So since our hair school was features on BBC in December, we've now got 5 hair schools up and down the UK. It was absolutely mental. We're having interviews across the pond, so over at America, Turkey, Greece. People just wanted to know more about what we're trying to do, and it was fairly simple. So my daughter Poppy, she had a unicorn party, as standard for a 5-year-old girl, and we had Maria. A shout out to Maria from Pretty Plats, who came and did my daughter's all the girls' unicorn hair, and I was like, that's amazing. So I wish I could just, I suppose, learn to comb my daughter's hair without her crying. It was as simple as that. It wasn't a case of doing anything special, but just I saw my wife always having these special moments every morning while she was doing my daughter's hair, and I thought that's something that I would like to do, but actually learn how to do it. And so I just put out a quick message on Yorkie Dads, and we got 1,000 dads on our Facebook group, and they all got back in touch and they're going, yeah, this is something that I'm really struggling with every morning. This is something that I would love to be part of. And so Maria from Pretty Plats, we simply set up a Yorkie Dad's hair school, which was just guys getting around together with their daughters and learning all different types of French plaits, Dutch plaits. For myself, just combing my daughter's hair, I'm still absolutely appalling, but she doesn't cry as much, so that's a success. But I go, so we have it every month, and just guys getting together, and it's a real good place to offload. And I think for a lot of our activities, it's about the activity and the environment to feel comfortable to open up. But it's not like, I think sometimes as blokes we struggle to say, oh, do you fancy coming for a coffee and having a chat? What we're doing is providing an environment, but keeping ourselves busy. So the purpose, it's the hair, to do our daughter's hair, but it gives us a chance to be able to really chat and offload. It's kind of like when you say, if you need to talk to your teenager, make sure you go for a drive with him, and so you're not looking at it, there's no eye contact. It's similar to that. All the activities that we run is a place and environment to have some fun, but all these conversations, and that's what we found certainly with our Facebook group. It was a really nice surprise, but it was wonderful that guys were opening up, and the mental health support from other dads. So we had new dads. Oh, look, there it is. We had new dads getting to get a 19-year-old. He just recently put on the Facebook group, really struggling guys. None of my friends have got kids. I just feel a bit lost and isolated. And those messages are really heartwarming, because you see everybody buys into the value and the ethos of Yorkie Dads, but you see other guys straight on it straight away. So this young lad who's never probably opened up before, and then he gets this 50 or 60 replies from other dads going, "Oh mate, I've been there, don't worry," or "I'm a young dad as well, do you fancy meeting up?" Or let's I'll see you at the next breakfast club. So some real nice messages. So for that guy that's opened up, it's kind of validated him, and we've encouraged him, and we've said well done for opening up. But then you get lots of other guys going, "I'm following this feed, I feel exactly the same way," and to create an environment where they feel comfortable enough to do that. And it's really nice, and it's I thought there'll be just a lot of funny dad jokes, and there is quite a lot. It's a nice place to be in and be part of, but everybody knows what the values and what we're about. We're about supporting each other. We rise by lifting others, and don't man up and talk, and open up, because if there's 1,000 blokes in York on the Yorkie Dads Facebook group, there's bound to be one or two who have been through there, and they always just rise to the occasion, and support. And I'm just like, "Oh, please somebody comment," and there's just comment, "Well done, I felt that way, you've done really well." And from guys that they don't know. I think that's what's such a beautiful thing about Yorkie Dads and Menfulness is, I suppose your wife, your partner, your mum, they're supposed to say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, mate. Sorry to hear that you had a struggling time." But the impact of another guy saying, whilst you're out and about, who you also know he's struggling, so, "I'm sorry that you've had a bad week, Jack. I'm sorry, mate. You want to talk about that." And that's sometimes all you need. You just need that, "Oh, whoa, God, that's," and you feel it. And it's usually the same message as what your mum and your wife's been saying, but in a different environment, in a different place. It's quite impacttive. And you see the difference, and you see the guys lift. You physically see them lift from all our events that we run. And I don't feel that we're no different, and I need it just as much as everybody else. So it's just creating an environment and leading from the front, which we all do, and showing that you can talk and you can be vulnerable. And I'm often vulnerable, and I'm often saying I'm struggling. My daughter Poppy, she's the apple of my eyes. I love her to bits, but she's got multiple health needs, and she's got epilepsy, and I'm often putting stuff on a Facebook group or on our WhatsApp group and saying, "Guys, I'm struggling. It's really, really hard working," and just getting that positive reinforcement, like, "Jack, you're doing really well. I don't know how you're doing it. I'm here for you, mate, if you need to talk." That pat on the back, that constant, and it's instant. It's very powerful, and that's what led to, I suppose, Menfulness. We're having lots of guys open up on the Facebook group and Yorkie Dads, and we also had quite a few guys want to join who weren't dads. And
I'm just going to jump in there, because I
cool.
just want to say for anyone who's watching, just to sort of break it into chunks. So Jack will be speaking at our Tedx Kashmir's event in 2 weeks today on the 26th. This is the main objective of this Facebook Live, is to get to know a bit more about Jack and who he is and what motivates him and why he cares so much about this idea, get you a sense of why it's important for other people. Underneath the Facebook Live, I've posted links to the event where you can see not just Jack, but we've got 7 other great performers and speakers. So Jack's one of them, but we've got a variety of other people as well. So you'll get to meet many of them. And he's just been describing this self-help group for dads in York in England, which has spread to different places, getting attention from all over the world with huge potential. But just before you come on to the Menfulness topic, which was really addressing the issue of people who wanted to get involved who didn't have children, who weren't dads, I wanted to just touch on the sort of the masculinity, toxic masculinity, and the way that you discovered a lot of men are brought up, certainly in the UK, and I think it's true in many cultures, like what you say, the bad role models for boys and young men, because you found you're rather fighting against that, aren't you?
Yeah, and I wish we're going to be doing some projects with the universities soon about toxic masculinity, and I suppose it's about myself, but not just me. There's so many other guys that we've talked to. When we've been doing our events, we talked to about toxic masculinity and how it really has a massive effect on you as a child, and how much, or actually, it's nonsense, the whole thing, and how much time I wasted on that. And one of our bloggers, Sam Watlin, is he's really kind of passionate about toxic masculinity, and he writes about it all the time. And it's really kind of moving and impactful, and something that I think so many of the guys here within Yorkie Dads and Menfulness realize, that what I dealt, if we can help some other guys, some youngsters, and go, you don't need to do that. There's no reason for you to have to be part of that. And so with our walk and talks, we've got some students and some York College students who come along, and that's a really nice blend of some older generation and some intergenerational project. But just to kind of see, for them to see, oh, okay, I'm not going to waste my time on this subject.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that it's slightly counterintuitive, and we spent quite a bit of time drawing attention to your talk to different women's groups, feminist groups, because feminism isn't something that should be left for the women. It belongs to men, and it's when we were discussing whether your idea was suitable and project was suitable for a talk, I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't like a man's group that was anti-women. And when you told me that the girlfriends, wives, partners were supportive, that was very, very encouraging. But also, you're not just for heterosexual couples as well. You're not like tradition. I mean, maybe you could comment on that, because it's fine to be gay or trans or whatever in your community as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we have a couple of gay couples who come along to our breakfast clubs who are regular members, and I suppose what's really nice about it, you're breaking down this divide, and as a bloke, you kind of put so much pressure on yourself to. I suppose the first question you're asked is, oh, so what do you do, mate? And then that kind of, oh, right, that puts you in that box, and it defines you. And the great thing about us is it's this kind of more in common ethos, that we're all bleary-eyed dads that are struggling, who are tired, who are knackered, and doesn't matter we've got some chief executives who come to our breakfast clubs, and we've got some people that are, dads that are struggling, but we're all just dads, and that commonality and bringing together. Yeah, it's absolutely doesn't matter. We're so open and diverse for dads. It's a place where we can feel comfortable, and something that we've been I suppose not struggling with, but to make sure that our Facebook group is just for dads. So we've almost got 1,000 there, and I think we did the right thing, because we're getting dads who are opening up, and a couple of dads have said, I wouldn't have opened up like that if my partner or my wife was on there. I would never complain about childbirth. Was the most hardest thing I've ever witnessed and been part of. But obviously, it was quite painful for my wife as well. She had a hard time. But just to have a safe space to go, oh my God, that was horrendous, guys. How did you feel about that? And most guys felt the same. To see your loved ones go through that, it's really traumatic. So to have a safe space to just go, did you find it awful as well? That was the hardest 2 days of my life. To have an environment and a safe place to be able to speak and open up.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So yeah, I just think it's really great that it's inclusive. It's supported by women. It's supported by men, and particularly at a time like this, where we're recording this interview in 2020, when the world is so divided, finding things that people have in common that bring them together, talking about shared problems can bring people closer. But let's jump onto the guys who aren't dads, because the origins was Menfulness was discovering there were other men who didn't have kids who also wanted to be part of your community, and a group called Yorkie Dads isn't quite the right name for a group that for other men. So what was the genesis of that idea of making a group for people and for men who weren't dads?
Well, with all the comments on our Facebook page, so a lot of mental health support and well-being support, and alongside that we have our events as well. So we've got an allotment group, we've got a walk and talk group, and we had a chilled out football group, but it was always like Yorkie Dads events, and we had a few people want to join, but they weren't dads, and they actually said, "Oh, I'm not a dad, but I fancy being part of that," because my friend who is a dad was saying how good it is and how inclusive and how much fun and welcoming everybody is. And I was like, well, yeah, I haven't got a problem with it. And then we thought, well, having a mental health problem isn't exclusive if you've got a kid or not. And we felt, and that was taking up more of our, I suppose, of the chat about the mental health and wellbeing support. So shout out to Mike, really, because Mike came out with the name Menfulness, and we wanted something completely different. They certainly work alongside each other, but something different, so people knew our Menfulness is for all men in the city, and it's gone amazingly well. It's past all of our expectations in terms of what we're doing, and I suppose Menfulness is the umbrella, but within that we support guys to run events themselves under the Menfulness umbrella. So they'll come to us and go, I fancy doing some football, Jack, and I'm like, well, I'm not really into it, but I suppose other blokes are. If you want to run it, I'll come along to it. We've got now the Yorkie Dads Walk and Talk. It's now Menfulness Walk and Talk. We've got the allotment group as well, so guys just going down there to the allotment, and we've got hugely successful social circuits, which is an exercise class, but for absolutely anybody at any level of fitness. And the important part of that is called social circuits, so guys talking the whole way through doing this circuit class. But something that we've kind of stumbled upon, what we've noticed over the last few years is the lack of, yes, we've got all the support and friendship groups, but the lack of professional help. So we've worked quite, and so when these guys come, and so they might be my age, banging on 40, and it's the first thing they've opened up, and they're really struggling, and they're at crisis point, and go, guys, I'm really struggling here. What should I do? And you know they need professional help. You know that meeting me at the allotment, yeah, it will help, but they need some professional input. Across the UK, and I believe it's the same as Poland as well, that the waiting list is 6 months. And that's with statutory organisations and doctors' referrals as well, part of our NHS. So, 6 months. And there's definitely a link between guys not opening up and sadly guys taking their lives. 80% of all suicides are blokes, and certainly that's something that we struggle with sadly in York. And I felt we need these guys to be able to. They can't wait. They need to get into a service straight away. So we worked and got a bit of funding from the NHS and National Lottery, and a bit of funding from City of York Council, to be able to provide free counselling for guys within 24 hours, which is absolutely unheard of. And we work alongside Serendipity Counselling Service, and so thank you very much to Sinead and all her team there. And what we have done, which is something that I believe that can work across the world, is we've been able to work with students from York St John and Teesside University, psychological students and counselling students in their 3rd year. So they've done all their basic training, but as part of it, they all have to do about 100 hours on the job training. So we've been able to use those students and be able to give affordable or in most cases for the guys that need the help, free counselling because we will pay for it. So it's a complete reduced rate. The students love it because it's part of their hours. The guys understand the process. They're very, very skilled in serendipity. This particular year, they've got mental health nurses who are training, mental health nurses who are now training as counsellors as well. So their skill set is huge. So we're able, one example would be a friend of mine, I won't mention his name, but he rang me and he said, I'm really, really struggling. I'm walking around the Naze mine, I'm crying. Now, his relationship I knew was breaking up. He was struggling with work. He wasn't seeing his family. And he was isolated. He didn't feel like he did have friends, but he didn't feel like he had friends that he could talk to. Now, all those, you know, that it's a perfect storm for, just sadly, somebody, certainly blokes, taking their lives. And I felt we needed to get him some help straight away. And we were able to do that within 24 hours. And he had a phone call, and this was during lockdown. Now, fast forward 6 months on, his relationship is still it's still in the same place, but he himself is in a much better place because we've actually encouraged him to and built him up in such a way so he's continued with the counselling. He's coming to all our events, so I can just be a friend to him. I don't have to pretend to be a counsellor because I'm not. And I can just say, we'll come to the allotment, we'll have a chat about it as a mate. And I know safeguarding wise, he's got the support that he needs from a professional, which is a huge relief for us and all the other guys. But then what we do, we empower guys. So now he got in touch, he said, do you mind if I run? Do you mind if I get involved with the football? I said, well, I'm not really that interested into it, but I'll speak to Mike. And I spoke to Mike, and Mike said, better than that, let him run it. So he's running it every Wednesday night, not anymore during lockdown. But that, I suppose, that journey of what the empowerment that we've offered, the professional help, and the friendship and the environment to be able to get together and support each other and you're not alone. And we've ran a huge campaign, which is all on our YouTube channel, and guys being brave enough to open up and talk on camera and talk about what their own mental health struggles and being not alone. So other guys could go on there and go, oh, well, I either know them or, cool, that's brave. And wow, that's because life isn't perfect, but to know that you're not the only one that's struggling with mental health issues, myself included in that, and going out and seeing other guys and being with other guys who are open and honest, but don't talk about it all the time, but feel they know they can, and a safe place to be able to do that. It's making a huge difference. And for me to have for us to have in our armory that serendipity counselling service, to make a referral, and professionals make a referral straight away. That's a huge thing, and I think that's what makes us very different, and something that we're very conscious of. But our success has been because, we all buy into it, but none of us are paid, so we're all volunteers, and I think that's important because I honestly feel that the value and everything that we get back from it, people wouldn't put in as much as they do if they were getting paid, and they understand and the difference they get paid for it. However, if anybody wanted to fund the Menfulness or Yorkie Dads project over to Dubai or New York, I'd still be up for that. We can do a research project, surely.
So, I just want to have a shout out to I think he must be a friend, Zebedee Franklin, has been sharing and posting underneath the Facebook Live. So thanks for watching and sharing. There are actually a lot of people watching. There are 16 or 18 people watching at the moment. And please, anyone who's watching, do me, Tedx Kazimierz and Jack and the Menfulness Project and the Yorkie Dads Project a favor by just sharing this Facebook Live, because this is a kind of advert for the main event. And I just want to come back. I want to talk about money, and I want to talk about mental health and volunteering and the importance of professionalism and not just being amateur, not just being professional. And I think there's you mentioned that you're all volunteers, but some of the things you do cost money. And again, in your talk on the day, you're going to talk about how you do sometimes collect money from people who are there, but it's always accessible for people who don't have money. So someone can show up to one of your events with no money and they can still take part. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We always start off our events of how can we do this for free, and I mean, the majority of all the events that we run are free or donation based, but there's no kind of like anybody going around with a bag saying you must donate. It's just a little pot, and we do say you don't need to put money in. Is absolutely fine, because we don't. It's a struggle enough. And we don't want any barriers. We want people to come. And then what we do find is the guys that can afford it, which I know there's quite a few that can, it's kind of like a pay it forward scheme, and they'll put in extra money to pay for others. Donate a little bit of money. Obviously, the costings of things like our counselling, that's, I suppose, one of our biggest expenses. But the difference is, if you think about it, I mean, we get, for every £100, we get four counselling sessions at 25 quid, which is amazing in terms of like the cost that you talk about UK wise. But because we're all volunteers, none of the money is going to our salary. So if somebody like NHS fund us, it doesn't go to us. We give it straight to counselling service, who can make a massive impact. So, £3 can have a huge amount of make a huge amount to mental health.
I'm just going to translate a little bit, because in the talk, Jack and I spent a long time on the talk, and I've said there are certain English phrases which may not be familiar to an international audience, and quid is £1, a grand is £1,000. But even in Poland, a professional commercial counsellor will charge 150, 200 zloty, which is about 40 pounds. Obviously, the pound going down and down due to Brexit and stuff like that. But this is basically by using third-year students, psychology and counselling students. It's really great, because these are people who need the experience. So that in itself is a great idea. And maybe before I get on to the other issues, I'd say that often people think that TED and TEDx is about inspirational speakers and life coaches, and this is wrong. TED and TEDx is about ideas worth spreading. We're looking for great ideas, and in my case, it's always not just the idea, it's ones that are being put into action. And one of the reasons this idea is so powerful is that although you're addressing serious issues and challenges in York, these are issues and challenges that exist not just in York, throughout the UK, and definitely around the world. And because you're addressing them at low cost, it's something that could spread very far and wide, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just mental, it's mental to think that I'm on a Facebook Live for a TEDx. I mean, when we first started, us four guys getting together, it was the simplicity of it is that we just wanted a place where we could be ourselves, in an environment where we could eat generally, and the kids could play and happy enough. And to kind of fast forward, I suppose it's about, when we call these people doers, it's about people that actually do. So we get lots of guys that come to us and go, oh, I fancy doing this. And they generally, because as mindfulness, to be able to get, so everybody says, well, how do you do it? How do you fit everything in? But it's not me that's doing it. We're empowering other guys to do it. And by saying, you know what, you can run that if you want, crack on. But there's a few guys, Dan said, what about your walking talk, Jack? Can I set one of them up in recent weeks? Do you mind if I have a go, yeah, absolutely, crack on. And to empower other guys. So all of our events, I can just go as a dad or a guy who wants a bit of support, but I'm not running it, and I can just be part of it, and I can be myself, and I can have a laugh, and I can enjoy it. And that's everything that we do. So every new event that we set up, we make sure that there's at least a couple of volunteers, and we just put it out on our Facebook groups. Can you run? We've got this idea, or we've got a little potential, we've got a little bit of funding for this, but can you run it? And that kind of empowerment of kind of feeds into everything we do, and leads on to success. I mean, most of these events, I am interested in. Well, I'm interested in them now, but it wouldn't be something that I would want to do. The allotment, certainly not. But I absolutely love it.
Allotments.
Sorry, yeah.
I was just going to explain. They're działki ogrodowe. They're like the little patches of garden that you can apply to get if you're living in a block of flats. So it's and the allotment project, they've managed to get hold of an allotment. So one of these little działki ogrodowe, little plots of land, and the guys can get together there and garden. And I think it's really interesting as a Tedx organizer that somehow the Yorkie Dads and Menfulness have stumbled across a very similar organizational principle, because if TED were getting people coming to them and saying, why don't you do a TED in Russia? Why don't you do a TED in Africa? Why don't you do it in Asia? And they realized they didn't have the capacity, but they said, well, you do it, but the values are very important. So you have to keep the values aligned. It's about inclusiveness, vulnerability, anti-toxic masculinity. You've got your few core values, haven't you? And provided it's within that context, you're just gonna help them rather than organize it for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's multiple events going across the city every week, and even now, whilst we're in lockdown, we still got a walk and talk, because as a group that's supporting mental health, we're allowed to do that up to 15 people, and also the allotment as well, but all the online support, and it just grows and feeds into it. And like talking about toxic masculinity, I mean, in terms of like what we're breaking down is, we've got the hair school, and also like recently we've just got this we've got guys just writing poetry, and recently, so there's a WhatsApp group for guys writing poetry, and they wrote a dad's poem that was released on Father's Day, and that went out on Lad's Bible, was seen by 500,000 people, which is wonderful to be part of that and see that, be surprised by it, but just encourage it, but also don't be precious. We can't be precious about it. And if it takes an organic turn because somebody else is leading it and go, oh, we've decided to do this, oh, the walk and talks, we're going to go out of the city, well, yeah, absolutely fine, you're running it, it's your event. And if it's, yeah, like you say, supporting our values, which is for men to be okay to be vulnerable and open up and talk, and don't man up and that support, then absolutely crack on. And if I can make it, I'll be there. A lot of the events I can't make because of my own commitments, but it's wonderful to know that they're just running across the city, and there's guys supporting each other in different pockets, and then, oh, we're going to do this now, Jack. We've got this event coming on, and you're like, yeah, brilliant, lads. So we kind of got this umbrella organization that I'm part of, and I really feel it's a collective that we all feed into it together. And I need it just as much as any of the guys there. I need to be there for my own mental health and my own well-being, knowing that there's guys, if I want to, and sometimes you don't use it, you don't talk, you don't open up, you just have a laugh and you just muck about. And that's great. But knowing that it's there, that I've got this WhatsApp group, or I've got this Facebook group, or I've got this walk and talk, a place where I can talk to guys in a non-judgmental, open, empathetic, and I just feel lots of love and support. That's really empowering and really impactful. No, it's just, I feel like I've got a shoulder. I've got somebody on my shoulder, and they're there, and anytime I need it, and to not, because I suppose you spend so much of your time, certainly for a bloke who's got mental health issues, and then finally you open up, and to know that there's others there who have been through it, who are able to support you. And we don't say, we're not going to solve all your issues, but you don't have to face them alone. And a few guys do come to me and go, I'm worried if somebody opens up, and you go, well, would you worry if your friend opened up? No, we're friends. And now, in terms of safeguarding, and all of us, we're lucky in a sense that we've got training, safeguarding training, mental health training, suicide prevention training between us, just because of the roles that we've got. So we feel like we're comfortable enough to either support someone who's really struggling or refer them somebody to another organisation. But we've got now in our armoury, we've got that professional counselling. I don't have to go to someone, which I was doing, to go, maybe you need to speak to your doctor who can refer you to counsel. I can go, if you're comfortable with it, I feel like you need professional help, I'm going to make a referral if you're all right with that. I don't need to know. And the beauty of it is you don't need to know any of the details, because it's not down to me. In fact, a lot of the cases, I don't, unless they're comfortable with it, I don't want to know. It's right, if you're a bloke in York, you feel like you're at crisis point, or even not at crisis point, you feel like you're struggling, then there's free counselling for you. And then what we're hopefully doing is, we're not going to stop guys from getting to crisis point. No way we're going to do that. They're still sadly going to get to that point. But hopefully when they are at crisis point, they'll have options. So they'll have somebody that they can reach out to, go, you know what, I'll speak to Matty that I met at the Walk and Talk, or I'll speak to Jack who I wrote that poem with, or I feel comfortable to talk to him, or I'll reach out to a lot of guys on the Facebook group. And I think that's what we are finding. Blokes are getting to crisis point, but we're able to help them. And when we see a problem, because we believe in it, we look at overcoming it and dealing with doers. So it's a lot of these ideas are simple, but you need to get so many people behind it to kind of make it work. And we've got a huge team of volunteers, volunteers like Pete, who just goes and writes an application bid. Joe's done a website. It just people that want to be part of us and believe in our ethos and what we're trying to achieve. And then randomly you got me, who's just sat here talking on a Tedx live Facebook, which is it's still feel a bit surreal, really.
Well, this is very real, and it's a great honor and privilege, and it's the wonderful thing about doing a TEDx. It gives you an excuse to call up people who represent great ideas, because as Jack keeps on emphasizing, he might be the face of it, but there's a whole army of people working with him. The theme of our event is impact. So each of our speakers, including Jack, are people who are putting ideas into action that have, we believe, either have already had a tremendous impact or have the potential for much bigger impact. So maybe just before we wrap with calls to action, Jack, and if you are watching this, please share this, because by sharing this video with the links underneath, you'll be encouraging people to come and possibly encouraging someone somewhere to set up something like Yorkie Dads in their country, in their city, in their town. But in terms of impact, could you say in just a minute or two what you think the impact of Yorkie Dads has been already and what the potential in the future is?
Yeah, I think it's huge for me personally, but then also the guys that we're working with. We're talking to them on a weekly basis, or on a daily basis, or certainly on a groups. It's been massive. We've got 1,000 guys on a Yorkie Dads group, and we've got 500 guys on our mindfulness group. But I suppose the biggest kind of validation, and we've got all these events running by volunteers, but the validation that is happening is that we're getting referrals from doctors, and we're working with and which is just bizarre even saying that, but every GP, which is doctor's surgery within York, has now got our little logo and what we do, and they make referrals, and it's so much better than pills, and they're realizing that the impact, yes, but we cover all bases. We cover exercise, which exercise is medicine. Everybody knows the benefits of that, but for anyone, you've got your walking talks, and you've got a safe place to talk. So in terms of impact, I think we've stumbled across something that was certainly happening in men within Yorkie dads, and the mental health impact there, and then realized that no, it's not just for dads, it's mental health and well-being across too, for everyone in menfulness. But let's not forget that I don't like to talk about suicide, but suicide is happening, and we've been around on this planet for thousands of years as men, and it's only now in 2020 that even still now that we're realizing, oh, in fact you do need to talk, and and I don't want to go glorified that we're saving lives, but I honestly believe that we are, and we're certainly changing lives for the better. I think guys' mental health and well-being, of being part of this group, there's no judgment, it's just friendship, it's just support. There's also rules about that. We're apolitical. It's not about that. It's about what we've all got in common, and because we're not used to that, I suppose men aren't used to doing that. You can, something so simple is having such a massive effect, and all the statutory organisations are working closely with us, all realising when they send someone to us, and I don't do anything different. The guys don't do anything. They're just themselves. They're just welcoming. They just make the person feel valued. Everybody's got a voice, and everybody's got a position and a place, and that is, if we're getting statutory organisations using us, referring into us, we're getting GP surgeries referring into us, we're getting partners referring into us. We're now at a stage that we're a victim of our own success, I suppose, which is great because we're all volunteers, but we're getting referrals that we can't really, unless we get more volunteers, but we can't really deal with it. So we're at a stage that we're looking at, either corporate sponsorship for people to get involved with us and go, yeah, let's grow this, let's make this bigger. We're doing talks. So we did a talk last week to NHS Scotland, to NUS Scotland, who want to run one. And then tomorrow, randomly, the Kind Festival, we're talking alongside Captain Tom Moore, who just he's our warm-up act, but Captain Tom Moore, for everybody over in Poland, he's done amazing things. He's a national institution within the UK and raised millions of pounds for the NHS, and he's just about positivity, about can-do attitude, and about rising by lifting others. And now I'm talking alongside him, which is just wonderful, really. So it is having an impact, but really on a smaller level. It's about just being together and having that support, and those little golden nuggets that you see when you're at those events, when you see guys having similar, oh yeah, I'm struggling with my kids, and you put them together, those guys are both in similar situations. And so it's those, bigger wise, globally wise, amazing, obviously it's huge, but it's those smaller golden nuggets that we see on a daily basis, either on our WhatsApp, on our social media, or at our events that we run, and seeing the difference that it's having, and seeing guys physically lift when they've got that support, and they open up, and then they just get that reassurance and that validation from another bloke who's struggling himself. Those are the impacts. Yes, impact globally, brilliant, but impact on a local level, and seeing it with my own eyes, going, oh wow, that's something that we've created there. That's made a huge difference to that person. He's going to he's going to leave feeling better about himself. And I suppose you need to speak to the partners as well. When we do go to these events, I always go home happier. Generally, sometimes I don't want to go to the events, but I always go home happier, singing on the radio and feeling good about myself. That one, I've made a difference in other people, but also it's made a difference for me, and the impact personally has been huge. But for my own mental health, and it's just been massive, and it's an absolutely hugely privilege just being part of it. Let alone it's something that we've set up, but just being part of it, it's just wonderful. There's lots of scope.
That's fantastic, and I think I'd just like I won't repeat everything, but add that as well as helping yourself, and obviously the people who come to you online and to the events, there's also their kids, their partners, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, their partners, husbands, wives, and families. Clearly a stronger person in better shape. Even if you haven't solved all their problems, giving them support supports the people around them as well. So that's another thing. So this is an idea worth spreading. It's an idea you've put into practice. Obviously, my call to action is, please, if you're watching this video and it makes sense to you, look at the links underneath. Consider coming to hear the talk that Jack's prepared for the day on the 26th. Suggest to your friends they might want to come along. Look at the program. There are some other terrific ideas and talks alongside Jack's on the 26th. On the other hand, if you can't come to that event, but you think this is a great idea, maybe you've got any other, what should someone do if they think that Yorkie Dads could work in their area? Jack, do you have any? I'd like to, maybe I've summed up. Have you got any closing call to action before I say thank you and good night to our online audience?
Yeah, well, get in touch. Have a look at our menfulness.org website and see what we're doing, and send us an email. If you could run it and it meets our values and it makes a difference to men in your area, and the ripple effects of men's mental health in society is huge. You can't underestimate it. So if you feel this could have a difference, then just calls to action and get in touch, and we'll certainly. There'll be one person that will be happy to have a chat with you. But then I suppose calls for action is, we're at a point now that statutory organisations are getting in touch with us. So a call for action is any corporate companies that want to sponsor us, who feel this is something that we can be part of, then do get in touch, because on a voluntary level, it's something that wonderful, but also it needs, there is a huge need for it. But so we're at capacity, and it's wonderful to be at these talks, but we need, I suppose, some backing in that sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something that we can maybe come back to. Right now, we've got 2 weeks to the event. We're all going flat out on the event, but this doesn't end with the event. And certainly we can have a follow-up conversation and see
definitely
what we can do to help get the word out. Well, I'd just like to close by thanking you, Jack, and all of the people behind you, your team, your patient family, for letting me steal you away for so many hours to work on the talk. For anyone from Jack's community in Yorkshire or elsewhere, you're very welcome. We're going to have people from all over the world, from India, from America, from the UK, obviously lots from Poland, from Belarus, from Ukraine, neighboring countries, Germany are coming. We're a very international, very tolerant crowd. It is Tedx Kazimierz, as many were in Poland. I know in the UK and America, there are lots of countries that are struggling a lot with finding events where everyone feels welcome. Everyone is welcome at our Tedx Kazimierz. And so I'd just like to close by thanking you, Jack, thanking everyone.
My pleasure.
Do share the event, sign up and come, and we'll see you, I hope, on the 26th.
Cheers.